All right. It's another day. Welcome to Wednesday. Welcome to the season of Cleveland. So that, as you know, we can have 4 seasons in Cleveland. Welcome to Unapologetically Black or Strong on 95.9 FM WOVU. One day I'm going to get this whole thing right. Every time. Welcome to another Wednesday. Welcome to another time. I'm going to go ahead and bring on my special guest. Yeah, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, come up to the mic. We have the one, the only, Shalenah, a.k.a. Shelly. Now, just so that you know, I've never actually called her full name. So we're going to call you Shalenah Williams for the day.
That is fine with me.
Is that fine with you?
No one calls me Shalenah. It sounds weird to even hear you say it.
Well,
everyone.
It'll be all right. So we're gonna go ahead and bring you in, and we're gonna have a little fun today.
Okay.
And so you are with the Cleveland Police Commission. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what we might want to do, just to make sure you're coming in clear, because you're coming in kind of low, we might have to switch you to the second, but I'll let you know after a while.
Okay.
So what I want you to do is talk a little bit about who you are. So you are part of the Cleveland Police Commission.
Correct. I am part of the Cleveland Police Commission.
Mm-hmm.
And, my responsibilities there are many and vast, but the one that counts the most is my relationships with the community.
Yeah.
And so I am a relationship builder and a relationship manager.
Okay.
Right? Because at the heart or at the foundation of all things is how we engage, how we interact, how we commune with others. So relationships matter.
And so you've been with the Cleveland Police Commission for how long?
For about 5 years now.
About 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so been there for about 5 years. And have you always been in the same, behind the scenes type of deal?
I have.
Is that what you like to do?
I work best from behind the scenes.
Uh-huh.
And I will say this, I've always worked in and for the community.
Okay.
So I've done this work for about 25 years.
Okay.
So I'm very comfortable with working for the community. And for me, working for the community, what impact is what I'm always looking to do. And for me, what impact or what success looks like is the amelioration of our community.
Okay.
And that means making sure that Black and brown and marginalized communities are safe. Mm-hmm. And when I say safe in every area, in all aspects, right? Safe mentally, physically, emotionally.
I love it.
Spiritually, that we are safe financially, safe educationally, safe health-wise, safe housing-wise, safe in all areas.
Right.
And so I work in a very specific vein right now, which is police reform and accountability. Mm-hmm. And but we have people who are working to make sure that our community is safe at all levels and in all areas, because it's going to take all of us to slay the dragon.
Right.
And the dragon for me is systemic and structural racism.
Okay.
And so it's going to take all of us. So I'm doing my little part.
Right. Well, we all got to do our little bit of part. Are you from Cleveland?
I am from Cleveland.
So you born and raised?
Born and raised. And everyone's always asking me, why are you still here? I don't know. I don't know why I'm still here. I guess it is my mission, it is my calling, it is my purpose to be here.
To be here.
To be here. We are not just a red state, we are a blood red state.
Yeah.
Right. And so there is something that happens at a cellular level to, again, Black and brown communities when you are being traumatized and you don't even know that you're being traumatized. Right.
Yeah. So Northeast Ohio and Ohio is vastly different when it comes to politics. So when you're talking about we're a blood red state, and you're actually within the actual heart of what we are, a lot of Black and brown people are struggling with, the concept of policing,
Indeed.
the enforcing the actual enforcing of the laws. And so last week we had Sergeant Erica Payne, and we talked about the enforcing of the laws and the differences, but you're kind of different. You're a part of, I'm assuming, a little while ago, it was a little less than 10 years ago or a little over 10 years ago, the whole police consent decree stuff and the police reform. Is this the reason why your commission was actually founded?
Indeed. So back in 2015.
Yep.
Is when the consent decree was instituted here in Cleveland.
Okay.
And it was because, again, of some of the more egregious acts of policing that got some, notoriety throughout the nation, such as we call it the 137 shots, where Timothy Russell and Melissa Williams were killed in a playground parking lot in a school in East Cleveland. The Tamir Rice murder, and then Tanisha Anderson, who was also murdered. Her parents called the police because she was suffering a mental health crisis, and she ended up dead in their care. Yeah. And so because of those acts, and those were the ones that, like I said, they were the more famous acts, but there were many, many more.
Yeah, I was going to say that was just, so those are the more sensationalized one, and we're not going to get into it on this side, but those were more the sensationalized one. And so your organization or our department,
we are a city department.
Yeah, see, you're part of the city, and it had to take some wrangling. So before we jump into the wrangling to get all this going on, because you and I have spoken, about it, and I've participated in your most recent event that was last year. We'll talk about that afterwards. But for you, in pouring yourself into this work, it got to be kind of heavy.
It is a heavy lift.
It got to be heavy. So this show is called Unapologetically Strong, right? And so I always like to ask individuals, like, where did you find your strength?
So for me, my strength comes from my higher power, who I call God, right? He is the center of my life, and he is where all of my strength comes from. My inner power, my faith, and when I say faith, my faith in myself, right? That I can do all things that I set my mind to. Living in my purpose, right, helps to stabilize and strengthen me. And when I say living in my purpose, right, a lot of times people, they've not found their purpose, they've not found their passion, they've not found their assignment or why they're here. Yeah. Right. And so for me, living in my purpose, which I believe is to ameliorate the condition, right, of our communities. That is my purpose, or doing my part. It is my legacy. Yeah. It is why I am motivated to get up and do what I do every single day. Until I hear the conversation from community members. And when I say community, there are many different communities, and I speak with them all. Until I hear, a different conversation from our community members, I'm going to keep doing what I do.
I think was also a blessing from you. As you know, I'm a little louder than you. And so what's interesting is when I hear, like, I've seen you outside, right? I've seen you in your work environment. So outside meaning as in when we had to get together for the event, but also I've seen you in your work environment, and hopefully our listeners can actually hear you have a soft presence about yourself. Is that about right? And so this soft presence allows you, I'm assuming from your position, to actually move people forward without the concept of harm, because, what you're doing and how you work, you're talking about harm constantly, and that's harm from those that have chosen to enforce the law within a certain community. So this softness and this pushing,
It is interesting that you say that, because, part of what I do and how I can do it effectively depends on my communication style. Right. Right. And so, again, I am having communication, or I'm in communication with people at altitude and at level. Yeah. Right. And so to be able, and in all different spaces. Right. So to be able to foster support and engender trust, I have to adjust
Yeah.
how I communicate with people. They have to feel like they're safe with me.
Yeah.
Right. And I want you to feel, and it's genuine. You are safe with me.
So I don't want to cheapen it because most times when we talk to Black women who are in power or who has direction, it's this concept of the mom, to where we're going to mother them. But I don't get that from you. I really get your genuine feeling of, I would like to support you, and I'm going to speak to you on a level that helps us support you as well.
Right. And so partnerships.
Right.
Right. And so, again, that's part of my job.
Mm-hmm.
Those relationship building, partnerships, that is part of my job. And so I have to, again, in my position, I have to be able to work both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah.
Right?
You're a double dutcher. And you know what? She just made the double dutcher. But in all seriousness, being a double dutcher or being someone that has to, understand the intricacies of diplomacy is not a bad thing. But I definitely can hear how, and we've talked about how much pressure that is on you.
And again, when you're working in your purpose and in your passion, it doesn't feel like pressure.
Okay.
Right? It feels like purpose. And so when I came to this role 5 years ago,
right,
the police and the Cleveland Police Commission were on opposing sides of the room.
Because you work for the city, just like the police do, but you're not as connected or collaborative as you need to be.
And so we definitely made strides, right? We have made so much progress in the past 5 years. I remember talking to our at that time, Chief Williams.
Yep.
He would not even attend a meeting, and he had told his entire force they would not attend a meeting. Fast forward to December 2023.
When you and I met? Yep.
Well.
Oh, you mean
this is just recent.
I got you. Oh, yeah. This is just recent.
December 2023, we had the entire command staff, including at that time, Safety Director Howard, at that time, Chief Drummond, and his command staff attend one of our, it was our end of the year meeting. And not only did they attend, but they prepared reports, each district, each commander.
And you're the individual that's a part of that. So,
indeed.
And that's in the middle. What I really want to know, as we got a couple minutes, before break, and we can touch on this on the other side. Everything that the reason why the police commission is there, as well as everything that you spoke about, the 100, plus shots, Tamir Rice, the mental health, crisis, and end up to where, she's no longer with us. In connecting all of that with what you do, you work with trauma. You are literally talking about or working within trauma within the protected classes. In other words, the protected classes are the police officers. You cannot, if you speak ill of the protected class, then you're in trouble. If you speak down to the, the protected class, you're in trouble.
And yet we have to call them.
Yeah.
To come and help us. So there's something that has to, I don't know, something that happens.
Yeah.
When you have to.
Because you got to call it, because you have to call the protected class in order to protect you. Right. So when you are working day to day, with with this trauma, how often do you really have to take a step back from this, personally, to say, I can't take this on today?
You know what? I never do.
Never? Come on now.
Because it never feels like work. This just feels like,
come on now,
having community conversations. I will say that what I do probably helps to alleviate some tension, some stress. I love to dance. I go skating. I love to work out. I enjoy my family, being with my significant other. So those are things that we don't even know that we do that help.
So your self-care is what you, so in my business, if I put on my counseling hat, we're going to call that self-care. So the things that you choose to do. So I would have to say, to be honest, you're a special breed, because I know I deal with individuals in trauma, and there are definitely times where I have to take a step back. With that said, I've, have the opportunity to leave it at a certain point. So before we jump on to our first break, tell me about how you leave it at a certain point. Where do you leave, your work? That day is over. 5 o'clock hit. Where do you leave? Come on now.
Don't.
You don't leave it?
I say that my job is 24/7. You can call me at 2 a.m. You can call me at 6 a.m. You can call me at 10.
We're going to have to talk.
If I am awake, I am going to pick up the phone because it doesn't feel like work.
We're going to have to talk. So
it doesn't feel like work. This is just what I do.
I'm going to take a quick break. And on the other end of this break, I'm going to talk to her about, self-care and letting go. Because there is absolutely no way. I've been a part of your meetings. I've been a part of what you do. And I know for a fact that I've had moments where I'm just like, yeah, I'm done. But we're gonna take a quick break. This is Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back to Unapologetically Strong. We got Shalenah Williams with the Cleveland Police Commission. Shelly, aka Quiet Storm. That's what. Because she was all extra quiet. I
am not a quiet person.
Okay.
I'm not a quiet person.
Okay.
And I think that adjusting the volume, because I don't feel like I'm a quiet person at all. So adjusting the volume of my voice so that people feel safe. They have to feel safe around me.
Use your voice as a tool. Which is not a bad thing.
Subconsciously.
I mean, let's be real. We all do it.
And so, again.
Yeah.
I need for the police to understand this is not an adversarial relationship. Right. You can trust me. I want to enter into partnership with you.
Yeah.
Right.
The interesting part is you are one of the individuals. So you've been in this studio before and you've been a part of, radio broadcasts on this actual radio station. But your job is different. Your job is literally attempting to assist the individuals who you're working with.
It would be more like a director.
Right. And so that has to be tough because what happens is, and can you talk a little bit about this? If something is missed or if something is not actually addressed, it falls on you, not actually on those that you're directing.
And so to a degree. And so that's why I'm behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Making sure that you cover this point.
Okay.
Or don't cover that point.
Right.
Or, this needs to be said. So making sure that the information, because again, that's what we kind of are. We represent the community. Our commissioners represent the community. And so making sure that we're showing up for the community, how they want us to show up, speaking about their concerns and cares, and not just speaking about them. That talk should lead to action.
This is and that's the part to where I'm just going to be candid. When the very first time that I attended a meeting and you called and was like, hey, Eric, can you attend the meeting? I said, I'm only going to attend and continue to stay with the organization if I see some action. Because far too often in Northeast Ohio, in Cuyahoga County, there is a whole lot of talk. And you got 13 individuals on your board. Why?
Well, that's the mayor.
Okay.
So 10 of our commissioners, they were picked by the mayor.
Okay.
And then 3 of them were picked by city council.
When you have too many cooks in the kitchen, nothing gets done. The soup tastes terrible. And I know that if you had the opportunity to have like some genuine, I'm pretty sure you get it, right? You get some genuine discussion from people to where we're not looking to let go of their fire, but allow that fire to burn just to see how far it goes.
Let me just say this. So our commissioners, they're all 13 of them.
Yeah.
They represent Cleveland's very diverse communities. Right. And that was on purpose. That was the consent decree. Okay.
I remember.
Brought down from the DOJ. And so our commissioners, they're representative of the academic sector, right? The clergy community. We have people who are in social work. We have people who represent persons with disabilities. Right. And so our commissioners are many and vast on purpose because Cleveland's communities are many and vast. And so they are to bring those voices from their respective communities to the table.
I think the struggle in most cases is if anyone has lived in Cleveland for an extended period amount of time, we understand the poverty, we understand the blight, we understand all of that. And when I hear that, or when we hear that 13 individuals are there, the very first thing that pops into my head is, what about the money? Right? What about the money? Cleveland, when we're looking at, ratings, Cleveland is considered poor. Cleveland is considered this, our school system. And with so much amazing medical fields that we have here, we have bioenterprise, which is a tech field, right? We have all these things around us, and we're still like this. And one of the things that people look at are administrations, and also bloated administrations or bloated commissions, so to speak. And so when we're looking, first thing that when I thought about 13, I thought about, well, what about the money?
So I will say this, up until this commission, okay, the previous iterations, they were volunteers.
Nice.
They were all volunteers.
Okay.
But it's such a heavy lift.
Yeah.
Right. And so we would tell people, we would tell our prior commissions, and even this one, you would spend maybe 20 hours a week, 20 hours a month. No. They're spending so much more time.
Yeah.
And so the persons who crafted issue 24, which is now Charter Amendment 115, because they saw that this is a heavy lift, and all of our commissioners, maybe save 2 or 3 of them, they have full-time jobs.
Right.
And they're dedicated. They're dedicated to making sure that reform happens.
Okay.
The equity happens. Yeah. There had to be, and even the stipend that they received is still considered by even Judge Solomon Oliver,
right?
Volunteerism, right? Or volunteer work, because there's so much that they do, Because
like I said, we've had quite a bit, right? If anyone understands or know what happened with Jimmy DeMore, or if anyone knows what, the mayor and right, all that stuff, where all this stuff, in my opinion, began, a lot of, we know that has been too much talk, in some people's realm. You talk about action. Recently, or last year, we had the police commission, the event. And so I remember how hard you worked to get that event going on. And one of the things that was, that we looked at in that event, which I, participated in, was the mental health of the city. And so you had individuals from, what was it, Akron?
We did. Dr. Robert Peralta.
Okay.
He led the research study, he and his team, and we just recently got back the final report.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Indeed. And so the event was to explore how police misconduct and over-policing, police violence affects the mental health of the Black community.
Right.
And just to give a little bit of background on that, I was in conversation with one of my community partners, Stephanie Huff, who actually coordinates the African American Wellness Walk for the city. And she was telling me how in Columbus, because that's where the walk is big in Columbus. And she said that a couple of years ago, Music Soul Child came and they were doing what's called a Real Men, Real Talk. And there were over 300 men that attended that event. And he was their keynote speaker and talked about mental health. I mean, to get 300 Black men together and talk about mental health.
It was also Music Soul Child. Let's be real. And what I appreciate is and then we're going to go back to the actual results or what came up. And what I appreciate is that, that there is a boom in this concept of mental health. And it's no longer like when we used to have it to where you pray it away or we keep it on, underneath, or we did, those type of things. And so what I really appreciated from the event, and we're going to go back to the results in a moment, the way that you separated. So you had an event for the LGBTQA plus community. You had an event for Black women. You had an event for Black males. You had an event for children. So you had an event for all of these, iterations of Black and brown people. And that's what I really appreciate. So let's go back to the actual results, because there was a study done for each smaller event that led to the major event. So in relation to police conduct, or in relation to how the community is looking at police conduct, what are some things that stood out?
So the thesis that we set out to prove was proven.
Okay.
That there is a direct correlation between the violence.
Right.
That, acts of policing upon our community and the mental health of the community was proven. But to your point, to your other point about praying it away, how does a people who are continually traumatized, continually traumatized, move forward all the time? How are they always resilient? And it was shown in the study, it was because of their faith.
Yeah.
It was because of their religion. It was because of their connection to God,
yes,
or to family. Those were the two things that helps us to not just stabilize and balance, but to rebound.
And so yes, because my rebuttal is, yes, you're definitely, because that's all we have. I have to be perfectly candid. We don't have a lot of generational wealth. We don't have a lot of outside entities that feed into us. And the two things that have always fed into us is our religion, right? Whether it's one of the Abrahamic religions or maybe one of the Eastern religions, as well as the people that, that have raised us, whether they're within our bloodline or not. It would be interesting to see how we're going to build on that. So in other words, if that's what we're saying, if we're saying that faith or spirituality, as well as your family, is something that actually sustains you, then how are we going to redo this thing that we call enforcement, to where we're approaching it from a level of faith? Okay. And we're approaching it from a level of support from the family. So in other words, if that's what we found in the research, then how much power are we actually going to put behind that concept? So I'm gonna give you a minute. I'm gonna give you a minute to think about that, but we're gonna take a quick break and we're gonna come back around. And I want you to just think about that, because yes, the concept of family and faith has been there, forever, and it is the thing that has sustained us for so long. So now, we've had systematic, in the 80s and 60s, and systematic breaking down of the families. Okay, we've had that. We've had systematic undertows, or circumventing leaderships in the church, and also more or less getting them to be on the side of individuals that are helping to keep us down. So if the research says that, we're going to talk about that on the other end. All right. So this is Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back to Unapologetically Strong. I'm your host, Eric King. We got Shalenah Williams with the Cleveland Police Commission. On the other side of the break, I posed a question, because a lot of what the study has found is not anything new. And I hate to say it. I've been in mental health for almost 20 years. I've been a student for a while. So the concept within the Black and brown community of family and faith is not anything new. Now that we once again have it on paper, what are we going to do with this? Because it has been systematically, the Black family has been broken up systematically, and we can blame the government, but we vote the government in. So let's just pause right there. Okay.
I got two responses to that.
Okay, go for it.
One is, if I had the question to how to rebuild.
Okay.
Rebuild the Black family.
Okay.
Okay. But then on the flip side, of that, I do see a movement towards the rebuild of the Black family.
Okay.
Right? I do see, because essentially for me, at the center of the Black family is the relationship between the Black man and the Black woman.
Right.
Right? That relationship has to be very strong. And so I am seeing a movement back to that.
Okay.
Where the Black man regards his Black woman as his queen, and the Black woman regards her Black man as king. And so, and I think we're seeing this movement because of information, right? Information is getting out there about how government systematically tore down the Black family.
Correct.
And so we have to get to the heart of it, because initially back in the 90s, 80s, early 2000s, we were kind of believing the disinformation.
Correct.
About, you've been in jail, blah, 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 blah.
No such thing as a crack baby. That research came out that there's no such thing as a crack baby.
But we believe the hype.
And the concept of the welfare queen does not exist during the Reagan era.
Believe the hype.
And also the usage of, to go back to, and we're not going to get too far off because that's a whole nother discussion. But
that
go ahead.
Information it played a heavy part,
right,
in how the woman viewed her Black king,
right,
and how the man viewed his Black queen, right? And so we began to, we didn't need the government to tear us down. We began to tear each other down. But with the surfacing of how we've been pitted against each other, okay, with the truth of how our Black men have been taken to jail for little or nothing, left in jail just because you couldn't pay to get out.
Right.
With information, we are now able to look at things differently.
So if we go back to the faith and the support and the point that you brought up about bail reform, right? How does the police commission connect, or even the information that you're working with now is looking at bail reform? Because I know that in some states, as well as some counties, they're reforming bail reform, because we go back to the support and we go back to faith. A lot of times people will go to the church to get the money.
And so right now, that is not an initiative that we've undertaken just yet.
Okay.
Excuse me, but we are connected to the person who heads the bail reform.
Okay.
Here in Cuyahoga County, Kareem Hinton. So he is a supporter of the Cleveland Police Commission. He has definitely been, a friend for many years, including up to its inception. So
the research and the study, and if we go back to, there's a difference between having the information. So now at some point, the commission needs to transition into the wisdom part, right? So we got knowledge, we got wisdom, we got understanding, right? So at some point we got to move into, you have the knowledge. Now, what does it look like for wisdom, or the action from the knowledge that you receive? So what are some of the things that the commission is working on in order to combat, some of the things that the study was looking at?
So right now, those are the things that we're looking at for the next iteration of the conversation series.
Meaning, okay, go ahead.
And so we literally had a meeting last month to explore, where do we go from here?
Correct.
Where do we go from here? And taking that information, because part of it has a lot to do with the economic destruction.
We're back at the money, because we need the money to build up anything.
And historically, again, the Black community has had policing, even city administrations, to not just disinvest, but to destroy Black businesses.
Because you can see. So if let's go back to the money piece, right? And if we go back to faith and family, right? We know that an intact family, a nuclear family, makes more money, right? They're more stable. They raise their kids in a different way. They're seeming to be more spiritual. It may not be Christianity. It may not be Judaism. And it may not be, the Muslim faith, but they're more spiritual. So if we know all of these things, and we know that the thing that keeps us resilient when it comes to actual, the dealing with how the police police us, if we know all these things, and money is one of the things that's going to help us, are we looking at more of an increase towards some of these programs and projects that you have going on?
Indeed. And so again, not us directly, because we are hyper-focused in the vein of police reform, but Mayor Bibb's administration is definitely looking at pay equity.
Yes.
Especially for, the city employees.
Okay.
But more specifically, he has an initiative that he's starting for Black women and girls, a commission on Black women and girls.
Right.
There was a report that came out, Bloomberg study, that showed here in Cleveland, out of all the cities in this nation, here in Cleveland, Black women are the most disparate in finances or economics, healthcare, and education.
Yeah.
So Black women in Cleveland are on the lowest rung of the totem pole in those three areas. And so Mayor Bibb has created an initiative to address that issue.
So not everybody had the opportunity to be a part of the inner workings. And you and I didn't meet because you actually sought me out. You knew someone else, and they knew me, and they suggested me. So, you know, the general public or the individuals that policing actually, you know, affects on a higher level, how are they involved in this discussion in order to help with the police reform? So I understand the commissioners. I get that part, right? But it can also still be viewed as a tier system or a gatekeeper.
So right now what the police and the commission are undertaking, we're putting together trainings to be more transparent to the community. We created one just in December. We had a use of force training we partnered with the police department, and they put together a use of force training, and we opened it up to the public. So the public could come in and see how the police department is trained on use of force in various scenarios. They gave us 3 different scenarios. We did that training on the east side of Cleveland. We're looking to do the training again on the west side of Cleveland. Okay.
So I'm going to jump on my soapbox right quick. And so my soapbox is always mental health. So last week I had a individual that was a part of the Bedford, police department. And, one of the things that I stressed is a lot of these calls are mental health calls. And one of the things she asked, do you know anybody that would actually go out? And I say, yeah, I will go out, on these mental health calls. What I want to know is a part of all of these trainings. And a lot of times what I find out is that they're optional, or they're actually taught by someone that doesn't look like me. So in our field, we have, PhDs, PsyDs, social workers, PCs, MFTs, all the way down the line. And what I find more than anything else, and this is me on my soapbox, if it is a governmental entity, they will find the whitest white woman who is a social worker to head a class on mental health without actually realizing there is a wide variety of mental health providers and colors and races that will go out and train these individuals on how to de-escalate.
And so the Adams Board has their director, and I think I'm probably going to mess up her title. But I believe she is like their director of training or something. Yeah. Miss Carol Ballard. And she is training.
Yes.
Training community, and I believe officers in CIT.
I get it.
And so, and she's an African American.
She's a Black woman. I got it.
And so, to your point, right now the city does have, or they are contracted with Frontline as well as Murders Taylor. Oh my God, what is it?
Because I'm gonna step off my. I got two. I guess this is my show. I'm gonna step off my soapbox in a while. These are nonprofit governmental entities. And I've said this over and over and over again. The individuals that are working, that are the boots on the ground, 1, are not getting paid enough. 2, their caseloads are too much. And we go to these same common locations. And this is not about you.
Right.
This is not about you. This is just me being on my soapbox.
No, it is a concern.
You're right. We go to these same common community mental health agencies that are staffed with individuals who have worked really hard on getting their master's degree and paid a lot of money, and we don't pay them snot. We pay them nothing. And so we go and we train and we expect them to be boots on the ground in this without realizing we have a vast amount of for-profit organizations.
So this conversation right here.
Yes.
Having this
We've had this.
This is what I do.
Yes.
So I would take this concern back to the table and say, look, commissioners, this is something that does say as a community. This is something that we
does
want
say as Eric.
The community, because I'm sure there are others who feel exactly like you. So we would start a work group or start an initiative to explore how can we get some other agencies into contract.
I'm gonna jump down from my soapbox. We're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna jump down from my soapbox because I have a serious problem with that. But I'll talk about it on the other side. This is Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back. WOVU Unapologetically Strong. I'm your host. We have Shalenah Williams from the Police Commission. Just so that you know, I stepped down from my soapbox.
Thank you.
So yeah, so I had a moment, and you have been in those meetings. Every now and again, I forget that this is, I am the host of the show. To where I just I can say whatever I want, but anyway, but yeah. So on the other side, we were talking about that action steps, right? So that wisdom. Putting things that you've already studied into action, and you mentioned money. But before we get back into that, tell us what's going on, or some events that are coming up, so that the public can, have their voice and go out and discuss what's going on. So
I would like to say that all of our meetings are open to the public.
Yeah,
you can attend them in person. And you can view them online.
Okay.
Go to our YouTube page and view our meetings online. We are having a full commission meeting this evening. It will be located at 3631 Perkins Avenue.
Okay.
And that is in Cleveland, Ohio, on the 4th floor.
Can I bring my soapbox?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll get kicked out. Go ahead.
Absolutely, because we do have public comment.
Yeah.
And at that point, the public is free to address the commission with whatever concerns it's on their heart. And so I do invite your listening audience to come out this evening. The meeting begins at 6 p.m. It goes until 8:30. Again, 3631 Perkins Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio, on the 4th floor.
Yeah.
6 p.m. this evening.
All my two listeners. One is my wife and one is my mother-in-law.
I'm sure you got some other listeners. Please,
and two listeners come out. Anything else going on that we need to be aware of?
Just something. So how to get involved.
Yeah.
How to get involved, because we always say that the community has a voice and has a responsibility
100%
in this work, right?
100%.
And so we do have committees, and then we do have work groups. That's where all the magic happens.
That's the action steps.
Those are action steps.
Okay.
Get involved.
Yeah.
Get involved. If you want something different to happen in your community, I always tell people, show up to your community meeting, show up to your ward meeting, show up to meetings.
Right.
Put your voice into the room. Turn that conversation into something actionable. And that's what we do in our work groups.
Even the virtual. So tonight is one of the committee meetings, and
it's our full commission meeting now. Virtually, you can just view.
So you can't submit any questions or anything like that.
You'll just be able to view. But our offices are open all the time. I'm at work at 7:00 in the morning.
Yeah. Don't call her. Don't call. Trust me. I've seen what she does. She does too much. So let's pivot a little bit. So I hear those information, and like I said, you and I met when we looked at the mental health side of police brutality. Let's just put it out there. The mental health side of police brutality, and that's how we met. And so you have this study that pretty much substantiated where we get our resilience from. Bravo, right? And they did a great job. They did a great job. What's next? So are we having another meeting? Are we having another event? And that's one. And two, how are we going to expand with actionable things this time?
And so again, yes, we're exploring the possibility of having another conversation where we're connecting the first conversation to the second.
Okay.
And all these conversations build a case for impact.
Police reform, or what do we?
Impact. And so impact for me, again, is always how do we help our community?
Gotcha.
How do we help our community? So what does impact look like? Does impact look like reconciliation? Does impact look like reparations? What does impact look like?
And when we were in a meeting, one of the things that I wanted was accountability. In other words, there's a part of this that if we go back to the protected class, any protected class at a certain given point that, feels as though they don't have accountability for their actions. And so as a mental health provider, I've worked with police officers, this and that. And one of the things that, stands out is how protected they are despite their inner conversation that was going on. In other words, I had a client, and this client actually talked about, I knew what was right. But because of my police union and because of my other brothers in blue, A, B, and C, could not happen. And it tore me up on the inside. And this individual just so happened to want to go seek, clarity and mental health struggles. What about that part? Mental health support for what they're struggling with, that accountability part.
There is mental health support for our officers.
Yeah, me. But no, that accountability part, if we're talking about impact, one of the impacts is accountability.
So there are organizations working, in concert with us and separate from us,
right, that
are looking to ensure that we are an accountability organization. Mm-hmm. But what you're speaking about is basically the immunity that officers have, even at the highest level. Mm-hmm. And so there are organizations working toward that kind of accountability.
Yeah.
Right. Right now, we are kind of hyper-focused at the local level.
No, I got you. Because, so you mentioned reconciliation, which, South Africa, when you look at the apartheid, and you mentioned reparations, and I can't remember the third one, but those two actually involve an individual or an organization admitting that they did something wrong. Mm-hmm. And if we're looking at accountability, and we're looking at restoration of trust, the very first part is the actual admitting and using language of, I recognize that I was wrong. Mm-hmm. That's not a part. I haven't seen that.
And so that's what we plan to do with this report.
Okay.
We are going to present it to the mayor. We will present it to the safety director and the new chief.
Okay. You think the mayor's listening?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But he will get a copy of the report, the study that was done. It was almost a year.
Okay.
Putting the study together.
Okay.
And so that we can share with him our findings of how this police department.
Because it's important, and I'm just going to be candid, it's important for any type of restoration of relationships. So every relationship has the exact same chemistry, right? We got boundaries, limits, accountability. I can't think of the other expectations and standards, right? You have every relationship has 5 distinct elements to it. Even the way that the police have the relationship with the actual community. Right. And when any of those are no longer met, there's a part to where we have to have a reconnection. Indeed. And a part of that reconnection, when we look at the autonomy or the anatomy of an apology, it's the person actually saying what they did wrong, how they actually made that choice, and how they're actually going to change. That's every relationship.
And so we're helping them.
Yes.
We're helping them to see what it is that you did wrong.
Yeah.
How it affected us.
Okay.
How it continues to affect us. And we're going to do it in multiple layers and steps.
So this is something that I've already always, connected with me. And you may or may not know this. My father is an ex, Cleveland police officer. I would argue with him or debate with him and say anytime. So this is what needs to, in my opinion, we don't have much change in governmental organization unless it affects the money, which means that when something happens within the city and is based on is from the actual, an official within the city or a police officer, any settlement comes from the actual city, which comes from the people that pay the taxes. Why is it not coming from the actual officer? So, I as a mental health provider has what's called liability insurance, which means that if somebody has a problem with me, they can put a claim in. Why is it that this system isn't actually in place for those that are actually police officers, because they should have liability insurance just like everybody else.
And those are conversations that are being explored right now. Talks with our commissioners and other organizations as well. And so we'll see how those conversations move forward.
I'm not going to put you on the spot.
I can't speak to it.
No, I got it.
At this point, they're just conversations, but it definitely is something that is being talked about.
Yeah,
it's being talked about. It's not a new idea.
Right.
It's not novel.
Yeah.
And there are others out there who feel exactly like you do. Yeah. And so those are things, like I said, that are in talks.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not attempting, because you don't have all answers. You have the answers that you have and have the ability to answer. And I appreciate that. That's why I'm on the other end of this, because there's always been a unique connection with policing and community. And that part is, someone who is supposed to protect the community harms the community, and then the community has to pay the reparations, quote unquote, or the settlement for what happened,
Right.
So that has always been something that has troubled me.
Indeed.
So go ahead.
This is why you have police commissions.
Uh-huh.
There are 140 plus.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Police commissions across our nation.
It's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them. And each one of them, are filled with community members who, like yourself, have questions that have been unanswered, concerns that have gone, unaddressed.
Yeah.
And so being on this commission gives us a chance to not just have a voice or a say,
right.
Especially with this commission, this iteration of the commission. I will say this: the Cleveland Police Commission is a commission like no other.
Okay.
The residents who got together and chartered in issue 24 now, Charter Amendment 115.
Yep.
They gave this commission the responsibilities and authorities unlike any other commission in our nation.
Okay.
And so they are the most powerful commission that exists to date.
Well, I want to see some change. Well, Shelly, thank you. We've had such that's it. You started off with the quiet storm, but we have had such a great time. But I thank you all for participating with me and being a part of this discussion. This is Unapologetically Strong on WOVU.